Welcome back to News and Views. My name is Aisha Dari Patel. I'm guest hosting this morning, and welcome back to Salam Media. Thank you for being here with us this morning. This hour is brought to you by Africa Muslims Agency. Today, right now, we dive into a really fun part of the program, and that is the profile interview. So I'm really excited about our next guest. For more than 4 decades, Zubeida Jaffer has been one of South Africa's most respected voices in journalism, a reporter, editor, author, and activist whose career has been closely intertwined with South Africa's journey into freedom and democracy. From her early days as a young student who walked into a newsroom at the Cape Argus looking for a holiday job, she went on to become a courageous anti-apartheid activist and journalist, reporting during the height of all of it, often at great personal risk. Zubeida Jaffer's work has helped shape South Africa's media landscape, amplifying community voices and documenting the stories that define our history. Today, she's also known for her books, her work in journalism education, and her efforts to promote African voices in the media. Zubeida Jaffer, we couldn't be more excited to welcome you onto News and Views this morning. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam, Aisha. Lovely to finally meet you.
Absolutely. I'm so thrilled to finally meet you. In my journey as a young journalist over the past decade, I've interacted so much with you and been so inspired with you and your journey. And I'm really happy that we have the chance to have a conversation this morning.
Thank you,
And
and in Ramadan on top of it.
absolutely, what a blessed morning.
Yes,
Absolutely.
yes.
And honestly, I want to kick off by asking you my favorite question to ask any journalist, and that is, why are you a journalist?
I think if you looked at my story, you would see that I got to journalism by chance because I happened to get a holiday job, and I had no idea what I was going to be doing there at the Argus. But once I had done that job for a month, there was no turning back because it completely suited my personality, my sort of my basic quest for being giving voice to the voiceless and being and standing for justice. It made all that possible.
And what year was that you first stepped into the Cape Argus newsroom? Do you
Oh,
remember?
that was 1976.
Oh, wow. So that was a really exciting time in South Africa's history.
Well, it was when I was interviewed for the holiday job. I was asked whether I agree with people throwing stones and what's happening at the moment.
Oh, wow.
And I had to avoid the question. I had to try and, just say, I can't remember what I said, but I do remember that I couldn't say, affirm that. I just had to say, I said something, I can't remember, but I know I didn't confirm or deny.
And I mean, stepping into that role, which I mean, you didn't realize it was your first journalist job, right? You didn't realize that this was it. This was the start of your career. What impact did who you were and how you look like play in that? The fact that you were a woman of color, a Muslim woman, did all of these things matter?
For me, I grew up in a family that was very committed to we were taught from small that that Islamically we are told to believe in one humankind, that we are not uh, supporting, separation,
Hmm.
and that we have to work and accept everybody, accept the richest of the rich, poorest of the poor, and accept people from all different religions.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't difficult for me eventually to go into towards the direction of the anti-apartheid movement, the UDF, because that was the foundation of my religion as well. But I questioned the religion by the time I went to university. I started questioning, and I wasn't happy. And I told my dad that I'm not really wanting to be part of this, because I said to him, I'm not an atheist or anything, but I don't want to be part of people who want to talk about where there's a drop of animal fat in the cheese. I don't think that's what the Quran says. I think that the Quran is about standing up for justice. But all that changed when I got detained. When I started my first job and I got detained, all that changed, because in that I experienced, I was only allowed at a certain point for that the Quran be my companion. And it was even before I got the Quran that I realized that this is who I am. This is a very fundamental part of me. And I guess it helped me through that, very terrifying experience.
I'd love to dive more into what an experience like that must have been like. Yesterday we spoke with Najma Kota, who spoke about, coming into post-democracy media landscape and how many challenges there were. But I cannot imagine what kinds of different challenges you face at the height of that era, and being detained, being pregnant, and still being on the job, all of these things, not all the roles in your life not taking a back seat at the same time, in the context of the craziness of the apartheid regime and the violence in all forms that came with it. We want to just break for a quick ad break, and then we'll come back and dive straight into that, inshallah.
Yeah, sure.
This Ramadan, give the gift of clean water with African Muslims Agency. With every water well or borehole you donate, your drop becomes a river, reconnecting communities to nourishment, education, dignity, and empowerment. Sponsor a water well for 16,500 Rand in Africa, or a borehole for 65,000 Rand in Afghanistan or Africa. Quench the thirst, reconnect the soul with Africa Muslims Agency.
Ah, the kitchen, the heart of the home, where memories are made and celebrated. Our go-to place for those freshly stacked pancakes early in the morning, or for that late-night snack munchies. We are in there together, cooking, eating, and celebrating life together. Let's keep the kitchen a place that is shared by everyone, where we build stronger bonds and grow together. Sunfoil, Now We Cooking. Visit nowwecooking.co.za for recipes that everyone can help make.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings, from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Hey, Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, bye, you didn't.
Oh, no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Randry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Randry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Randry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
This Ramadan, please consider donating to the Islamic Dawah movement. For over 45 years, IREM has built over 80 masjids and distributed more than 160,000 Qurans in 8 local languages. IREM has installed over 250 boreholes and water wells. Over 1,000 children are fed daily, building strong Muslim communities in disadvantaged areas.
Freedom Stationery supply Marlin and Marlin Kids pens to me and my school friends. They supply just about everything we need to help us get a better education. From books to files to rulers. In fact, any any accessory we need. Freedom Stationery. Education for the nation. What does accessory mean?
You are listening to Salam Media live from our headquarters in South Africa. This is Salam Media, keeping you company this Ramadan.
If you just joined us, welcome back. We're on air with Zubeida Jaffer, local legend, media legend, icon, if you ask me. And I'm really excited that we're having this conversation. A few of us were talking yesterday, and I was saying, it's where we are now, coming into the media industry, starting out as young professionals, is so much easier, I think, than it was 4 decades ago, perhaps, when you began, especially as a young woman of color. What are some of the I mean, you worked in the apartheid era, and we've spoken a bit about that, but culturally, what are some of the other challenges that you faced, being who you were, working in the field that you were working in?
I was really conscious that, I was sort of breaking new ground when I went to work at the Cape Times. But I must say I didn't, and I don't know if I was just blessed with this, but I always just stayed true to myself, or I was just me. I didn't, as I said, the foundation was that we shouldn't discriminate against anybody, and we should discriminate, or we should stand against any system that discriminates. So my experience, it was actually strange that only later, post 94, when I became a very senior, I took a very senior position, that I faced those challenges.
Oh, wow.
It was in my face.
Can you talk to us about what some of that meant?
Well, I was often, first I couldn't get a job for most of the, from 1990 to 1994. You would have thought that I knew in the 80s I was an activist. I was involved in community media. I was involved at that level. So I accepted that it was difficult to get a job, because I'd aligned myself with the anti-apartheid movement. But post 1990, I decided to go back to my journalism, and it was impossible to get a job in Cape Town. So from 1990 to 94, I freelanced, and then in 94, post 94, I continued doing that until I went to study abroad at Columbia for a year, and then came back, got the job eventually with the Daily News, political editor at Parliament, and then was really almost cajoled and, really pushed to take the position of group parliamentary editor, which meant I was in charge of all 14 newspapers, and the coverage for all 14 newspapers coming from Parliament.
Oh,
And
wow.
I inherited a mainly all-white team, not entirely, and the press corps at Parliament was also at 1994, it was essentially white.
Mhm.
And part of my job was to transform this. And so that's where I experienced,
Mm.
the clash. That's where I mean, it was so bad. There was a group of men who harassed me, my colleagues, who harassed me from the English speaking media, and who put me through, I would even say hell, because after 4 years, I eventually left independent newspapers, and I couldn't work for a year. I was so completely battered, completely battered. Of course, it's not just that experience, but
Mm.
it was also my past experience. But really, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting to be treated as a. I was just told I'm an affirmative action appointee. I don't understand what's happening in Parliament.
Mhm.
And people were rude to me. And
It's
this was something I couldn't like quite, I couldn't process at
mm.
all.
I mean, it's part of what I was wanting to ask you. I'm sure, when you started out, or even post 94, when you were moving into this work, how often was it that you would walk into rooms and see people who looked like you, in any way, shape, or form, and um, w- the impact that being the first or being the pioneer has on a person's psyche. You have to be so strong in yourself. It's easy now to look back 30 years after it all happened, and say, yes, it was really tough, and yes, I was the first, and all of that. But what I'm always interested in is going back to that moment 25, 30 years ago, and saying, it was really emotionally taxing on me to be brave in that moment, or in
It
to be.
was
Yeah.
it was very taxing, Aisha, because partly because I didn't expect it in 1980 when I went into the Cape Times, and I kind of, I suppose I was expecting. I mean, I'm expecting things, and I understood black journalists were being harassed, and some white journalists. I understood all that. But
Mhm.
in 1996, when I eventually went into Parliament, I was not expecting this. And actually, I didn't want the job. But anyway, that's another long story. So I took the job, and till today, I think maybe I shouldn't have taken the job, but it also taught me a lot. So I um, I found myself suddenly the only woman amongst a group of 21 editors across the country. I had to go to these meetings where I was the only woman. And had to go to, for example, we went to a Bosparade
Wow.
in what is this animal place in the north, Kruger Park,
Oh, yes.
and for 3 days, whatever, everybody, and I was the only woman.
Oh, wow.
And so now, when it came to during the meeting, it was okay, but when it came to after the meeting, I knew the guys wanted to. So it was a male female thing. I knew the guys wanted to start talking their own nonsense. I've got four brothers, and I was aware that they and the dirty jokes and all that. And so I used to kind of, joke about it and say, okay, I'm going to retreat now or whatever. You guys can, say whatever you want to say.
It's,
But
it's
it
yeah.
wasn't fun. It wasn't fun, being
No,
the only
I mean,
woman.
we hear about boys club culture, and the way that it exists across industries and across spaces. And I mean, to be the only female in a group of 21, that's incredibly isolating, especially, you mentioned, I'm sure most of them were white journalists, right? And so,
They were not all white, but then it was probably, I can't remember now, maybe a I don't know if it was half or maybe a third, 2/3. I'm not sure, but
But either way, the power dynamic was really skewed against you, if you want to put it that way, because a lot of them had already been in these spaces.
Yeah, and a lot of them was still the old white order journal, the old white order journalists, and they really resented me because, in fact, my immediate boss, Sean Johnson, who has passed away now, he said to me, Zubeida, what is it that you don't understand? You represent everything that they've always been against.
Oh, wow.
You were an activist. You were detained. You were in jail. You aligned yourself with the anti-apartheid movement. You're a woman, and you are a Muslim woman. He actually told me, because I said, why are they going on like this with me? He was very supportive, but I said, but I don't know, because I really couldn't understand it. Because they were insulting me, saying that I'm an affirmative action appointee, but I was more qualified than any of them. I was academically more qualified.
You had a master's from Columbia University, right?
Yes, I was academically qualified. I was experienced, more qualified. I'd covered the Rwanda genocide. I've been all over. But then I realized, yes, what they were right about is that I was not qualified. I didn't know Parliament. But I couldn't know Parliament because we were barred from Parliament. We were not black journalists. So I couldn't. And then I thought to myself, well, I can put me in any place, put me in a foreign country, put me in any community in South Africa, and I can report there.
I love that.
And I don't think the same applied to them.
The scales are unbalanced. Let's take a quick ad break. When we come back, we can talk a bit about one of my favorite topics, which is journalism, education, and young people in South Africa. Inshallah. We'll be right back.
More than 800 million people around the world live in deep poverty, uncertain of where the next meal will come from. For those on the brink of starvation, a food pack means survival, dignity, and hope. Send food. Send kindness. Be the reason a family does not go hungry. Donate now to Islamic Relief.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Dad, these Frymax chips are so tasty. Wow, that really takes me back. My dad bought me a Frymax chips every day after school. They were my favorite when I was your age as well. Quality is at the very heart of what we do, and that's why we ensure that every Frymax packet is filled with the beautiful goodness and flavor-packed taste that you've come to expect from us since 1982. Frymax, from generation to generation.
This Ramadan, as we prepare to break our fast, spare a thought for the millions of families around the world who have nothing on their tables. You can change that. For many, you are their hope. For just 1,590 Rand, you can provide a Ramadan food parcel to feed a family of 5 for the entire month. Help Muslim Hands continue serving humanity. Give your zakat and sadaqah at muslimhands.org.za.
Elite Basmati, available throughout the Middle East, and now for the very first time exclusive to South Africa, brought to you by Murchison Spice, Pietermaritzburg's most famous specialty store. Elite Basmati, available in aromatic white and golden cellar, is packaged in a world-class facility in India and is filled with wholesome goodness for your well-being. Elite Basmati rice by Murchison Spice. For trade inquiries, contact Mohammed on 033 387 2121. Murchison Spice.
Salam Media, your spiritual companion this Ramadan.
Welcome back to News and Views. We're chatting this morning with veteran South African journalist Zubeida Jaffer. Welcome back, Zubeida. We first crossed paths about 11 years ago when I was starting out as a young reporter at the Daily Box covering Fees Must Fall. And I know that you've been very actively involved in efforts to decolonize journalism education in South Africa. Why do you think this is such an important conversation for us to have in South Africa these days?
It's very important, Aisha, because in the end, the challenge that we have is basically about how we see ourselves. The challenge is about what our mind tells us. It's also about which stories we tell ourselves. And so we continue to only see role models who are white and first world. We continue not to understand what is happening or what has happened in our country and just reject everything, throw the baby out with the bathwater, then we are going to become, or we are becoming, less and less confident in who we are. And once you lose that confidence, then you can't stand up for anything because you think you're less. And so that's why it's very important. We started a website called The Journalist when I was at University of Free State, and because I saw that students were still learning about this was in 2013. The students were still learning about, the white narrative of who built journalism in this country. And so we wrote, over a 6-year period, we wrote 100 profiles of not only Black journalists, but mainly Black journalists that were hidden from sight. Because I believe that, and the website was going to every university where there was a journalism school. Unfortunately, when Professor Jonathan Jansen left the UFS, the old order characters there pulled the funding for this initiative, and we had to park the website. But despite that, we've in last year, beginning of this year, I looked at the stats. We had over 2 million hits last year.
Oh wow!
So there's a big, I believe that research, journalism, student community, academics are going to that side.
Absolutely, no, and I mean, a lot of the time when we're studying journalism, we're told you're not part of the story. You need to be objective. You need to, remove yourself from the story. But what you're saying kind of contradicts that, right? Because how can you truly remove yourself from the story? What in your opinion, what role does who you are and what you bring to the story impact the way that you tell the story? Why do you think that's important?
It's important, firstly, that you don't fool yourself, that you have a certain perspective. I mean, you have a certain worldview. If you look at how the US-Israeli war is now being reported on, You can see that those who believe that Iran is, the devil and that Israel is the saint, they report in a certain way. Now, I believe that we must be honest. We must be honest about our prejudices, our biases, but then we must also provide, our job is to provide the public with a lot of information and solid information. We can't just say, oh, I feel this way. You have to make your arguments. You have to learn to make your arguments solidly based in facts. And so I think that this present crisis in the world and in journalism is going to put all these things, open all these things for question. Everybody's going to see the hypocrisy in it. I was always put under a lot of pressure because it wasn't supposed to be allowed to be a journalist and an activist. But till today, when I introduce myself in any public forum, I say I'm a journalist, I'm an author, and I'm an activist. And I say it with great pride because countries, if you look at Western countries, were built with journalists. I mean, there were journalists involved who were working for the growth of their countries. And this is, and suddenly at a certain point they started saying, oh no, but you mustn't have a personal view, or you mustn't work for some cause. No. That was never historically correct. And so I feel that you mustn't apologize. I won't apologize. I'm very proud to say that I was part of fighting apartheid, and all the things that are happening now, all the difficulties, I'm still determined to help wherever I can to make sure that we turn things around. Not because I believe in a particular political party. I believe in a foundational human society. People are not separated from one another.
Absolutely.
And so that's what the prime struggle should be. And all these people are popping up now, who are having such a lot to say. They never popped up when the going was tough. So, and I saw that, So I have very little respect for those who pretend that they so for, human rights and democracy when they didn't help us create democracy and fight for human rights.
And the country and the media landscape, in fact, as we understand it and as we have it right now. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about working with young people and what after 4 decades of experience, you've seen it all. You've lived through the struggle. You've lived through the second struggle of adjusting post-apartheid. You've been in university spaces. You've been in activist spaces. You've been in newsrooms. You've been, in every kind of space. And when you look at where we are right now, you've worked with young people studying journalism. What do you see? What do you hope to see?
Well, I think we have some very extraordinary young people like yourself, and we have, and they are working. I see them working towards, the same objectives that we worked towards. And I am concerned that people make a general statement that, oh, the young people of today, they don't know anything, blah, blah, blah. You see, we were also just a small group of people. And that's what people are forgetting. It wasn't all the young people, or it eventually became that. But we had to do, and we didn't do big things. We were doing little things all along the way. Writing, teaching people how to write, teaching people how to express themselves, how to do a pamphlet, just all these things. But all these things that people did that small group of people did over the years became bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's up to you not to be sad that, oh, we're just a handful of people. We were just a handful of people. But it's how you're going to organize yourselves and how you're going to link up and how you're going to, stick to, a vision of where we need to get. People must be able to eat. People mustn't be poor. People mustn't be, starving. People mustn't be, living in abject conditions. This is unacceptable. So there's a lot for us to do.
And that's the activist in you speaking, underpinning all of the work.
Well, you guys need to write about it, but not only as, oh, look at the idiots of messing it up. It's about, oh, we all are in trouble if there are people who are messing things up. So our children are going to be in trouble. Our grandchildren will be in trouble. So what are we going to do about this now?
How do we be proactive? How do we take the work that you started forward in a way that is productive and serves humanity? Indeed.
Yeah.
Zubeida Jaffer, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show this morning. Thank you for making the time and for sharing your pearls of wisdom with our listeners. Inshallah, we'll reconnect again soon.
Salam, thank you. Salam media. Thank you.
Salam to Salam Media. We'll break now for ads.